if you're a trainer who's been spending a lot of time around your education, you value your education, you've surely seen some of these models from different companies about exercise progressions and regressions, right? I actually was honored enough to do a program design book with the NSCA, and we talked about some exercise progressions and regressions in that very book that I co-authored. That being said, I actually really don't like the term exercise progression and regression. I like the term teaching progression. Very different context than exercise progression. And I promise you, this is not just semantics here. When I'm talking about exercises, I prefer the terms variations and modifications, really. And here's why. I don't like the term regression and progression for several reasons. One is that it makes everybody feel like they have to move a certain way. Like, well, the third progression or the top of the progression spectrum is, let's say, like, for example, a lot of people, the top of their squat progression is an overhead squat. But if we're not fitting people to exercises, then why would that be the top of the progression? Because an overhead squat might never fit well with the physiology of some people I'm working with. Not only that, why do they even care if they don't do anything that involves an overhead squat? Sure, it's a nice display of shoulder mobility if you have it, but as an exercise to train when I could be doing other things that maybe more have more carryover to what your goals are, why would you care, right? So I don't call it a progression because therefore I don't put it on a pedestal. You don't put any exercise at the top of progression saying, well, that's what success is about, working you to that progression, because that's not what training success is about. Training success is about fitting a program to your goals and to your body and being consistent with it. So that's number one. Number two is that, let's say someone is capable of doing the top progression in your 4, 5, or 10 level exercise movement progression scheme. Is that saying, so let's say I can do overhead squats, no problem. Is that saying that goblet squats aren't going to be helpful to me at some point, or barbell squats aren't going to be helpful to me? Or let's say my progression goes from split squats, this is my single leg progression, split squats to reverse lunges, now you're adding some movement, to single leg squats. Let's say I can do single leg squats with external load in my hands. Does it mean that split squats aren't going to benefit me? Well, as long as I load them up heavy enough, they'll certainly benefit me. So what's the deal then? So all those exercises are still beneficial. Furthermore, what if I teach somebody that we're constantly doing these movement progressions and that's what training success is all about? How do they become successful after they reach their top progression in your progression movement spectrum? What do you do then? Because you've just told them, well, the only way to keep getting better is keep going through these progressions, but now we've reached the pinnacle of your single leg progression. Do you win now? Do you just win the progression prize and you just say, okay, you can quit training? You win. Of course not. So there's a lot of issues with that. Not to mention, most of these companies never give you any sort of standards in regards to when to move to those progressions or when to use the other ones. So again, there's a lot to be desired with those. So I like the idea of those exercise progression charts as an idea of looking at simple to complex exercises and maybe where to start somebody and use them as a teaching tool, because a lot of times one adds a new element to what you've already learned from the previous version. But those are just more complex variations, right? So everything's really just a variation and a modification. That doesn't make you put anything on a pedestal when you think about things that way. Essentially, there are no must-do exercises, right? So I don't have to get to the point, well, right now you can only do the first level in progression, but we need to get you to the progression 3. Why? Who says? Right? I can still get someone plenty strong and plenty fit only doing split squats, never doing a pure single leg squat. Being able to do single leg squats is nice to do, sure. It adds more variability to your training, but is it need to do? Absolutely not. Just physical activity that challenges your current level is all you need to do.